Welcome to the 6 Miles to Supper podcast. I'm your host, Kayla Cox, and I've lost over 80 pounds with intermittent fasting 6 days a week, eating whatever I wanted at my meals, taking a cheat day every Sunday, and walking 6 miles a day. And I'm here to help you on your weight loss journey. In today's episode, I wanted to talk about intermittent fasting and weight gain, because I think this is something that's poorly understood. Sometimes when people talk about intermittent fasting, there's almost this sense that it makes you impervious to weight gain. Like you can just eat however much you want, whatever you want, and you'll never, ever, ever gain an ounce. And that's just simply not true in my experience. It's entirely possible to gain weight while you're practicing intermittent fasting. And in my opinion, this is because what it really comes down to when it's all said and done is calories in, calories out. You know, if you eat too many calories in your eating window, you're going to gain weight. Now, the cool thing about intermittent fasting to me is that it makes it a lot easier to eat fewer calories, but you're still subject to the laws of nature. Now, first, let's define weight gain, because I think that's one big step is to learn what does weight gain actually look like versus what do some people think it is. And what I found, because I started weighing myself every day back in 2015, I found that my weight fluctuates a lot. You know, like my weight will go up a pound, down a pound, up a pound, down a pound, you know, up 3 pounds, down 3 pounds, you know, especially when I was heavier, it fluctuated even more. But my weight still tends to fluctuate a lot. So learning how to track that and just logging my weight every single day and then keeping track of my 7-day average helped me to start to see my patterns as far as how much my weight normally fluctuates, because it does fluctuate day to day and it also fluctuates throughout the month, you know, based on, you know, I would say hormonal fluctuations for women. You know, it tends to be a little bit higher during my period, and then during the rest of the month, it tends to be a bit lower. But just learning that about myself, because I didn't know that, you know, back before I started weighing every day and averaging my weight, I thought, oh, well, if the scale rises, that means I did something wrong the day before, that I ate the wrong thing, or I didn't exercise hard enough, or whatever. But what I've found is that the scale rises and falls kind of its own accord. Sometimes you can be, absolutely on point. You do everything right that day. You know, you exercise the right amount, you eat the right amount. And then the next day, for whatever reason, there's a bit of an upward fluctuation. And then, you know, the opposite can happen too. You can be horrible like one day, as far as like you maybe don't move off the couch. You eat all day long, you know, and for whatever reason, the scale's down the next day. And that can teach you some bad lessons if you just think, oh, well, I just need to do what I did the day before. But what I found was if I track my weight and I average my weight and look at how it's trending over time, the way I define weight gain would be a consistent upward movement of the scale over about 6 weeks of time. And I would say about 5 pounds. For me, that's how I define it. Because what I've found is a couple of pounds, that's normal. You know, like it'll go up and down. And I would encourage you to find that for yourself. You know, you may be the type whose weight does not fluctuate hardly at all. And so you can tell, you know, that your weight is fluctuating upward, or that you're gaining weight with a smaller amount of weight and maybe a smaller amount of time. Although I would say 6 weeks is nice because it gives you space to see, is that, you know, just based on like period stuff for us women, or is that, you know, true gain? And you can find that for yourself just by tracking your weight over, you know, I would say a few months of time, just consistently weighing every day, keeping track of your 7-day average. And, you know, there are some apps that will do that for you. There's one called Happy Scale. There's another one called Libra Scale for Android. And, you know, like I have a spreadsheet if you want to get that for free over at 6milestosupper.com/freebies. You can download it if you're a spreadsheet kind of person, which I am, and just track your weight and see how it trends over time and average those numbers, because that helps you kind of see past those daily fluctuations and you can start to see a trend. So let's say you've been doing that, you've been tracking your weight, and you see a definite pattern of gaining. Something's going on. And so let's talk about when you're intermittent fasting, what can you do to stop the weight gain, and then also to, go back to the other way, which is where you want it to go. You want the weight to go down. And now it really depends on where you're at in the weight loss journey. So if you are new to intermittent fasting, you're brand new, you're trying to figure out the plan and the scale's going up, what should you do? Well, basically, it means you're eating too many calories. And again, that's totally possible to do. If you have, let's say, an 8-hour eating window, it's plenty easy to eat too many calories during that time and cause weight gain. And so what that may mean for you, there are a few things that you can try. And first of all, I want to encourage you that even if the scale is moving up, if right now you're doing the best you can, like you're at the window that you really feel like this is all I can do right now, like this is where I'm at, then be okay with that. Learn how to do the intermittent fasting consistently because it's a skill. Learn how to fast. Once you learn how to fast, then you can increase your fasting window. And so decreasing that eating window, and that can help you lose weight. But first, get comfortable with fasting. And that's, a process that takes time. I was always very gradual with making my fasting window longer, and I would encourage you to do the same thing. The key is to make all of this feel very easy and very doable and very sustainable. So be patient with yourself. Don't get in a big rush and try to say, well, I've got to go to OMAD because I'm gaining weight right now. Just remain calm and just think in terms of small tweaks that you can make. And right now, if you feel like, oh man, my eating window, I don't want to shorten it anymore. I just feel like this is what I can do. I would encourage you to eliminate snacking. And that was something that I did. I didn't ever create a rule for myself that said no snacking. But what I did find was that for me, snacking was tied directly to emotionally eating. And that was something I learned through intermittent fasting because I had these times where, I'd be in my fasting window and I would just have the overwhelming urge to go snack. And I started to see there was a connection there. I was feeling stressed. I wanted to snack. When I wasn't stressed, didn't want to snack. So I started to say, okay, during my eating window, I need to be very careful that my urge to snack is an actual, like, okay, I really am hungry and I really do want a snack because I'm hungry, not just I'm wanting to soothe my feelings by having a little snack. So try that. So instead of, shortening your eating window, leave your eating window the same length, but then at your meals, eat more at your meal so that you don't feel the urge to snack. Like if right now, maybe your window opens up at say 12 and then it closes back down at say 8 p.m., like eat enough when your window opens at that first meal at lunch, eat enough there so that you're full until supper. And so that way you're not going to have that urge to snack, which is generally where you can, eat a lot and not really realize it. And then lastly, pay really close attention to how full you're feeling after your meal. And just start to notice that. Just do a little check-in after you've eaten and ask yourself, okay, do I feel full enough? Do I feel overly full? And what I've noticed, especially in the beginning, a lot of times I felt overly full. Like it was a consistent thing where I felt too full. And I just said, okay, I'm going to work on that. I'm going to work on the next meal. I want to feel at the end of the meal completely full, but not uncomfortable. And that has taken me quite some time to get into that habit because it was a well-ingrained habit that I had gotten into of overeating. And yes, there are still times, even to this day, where I will be overfull after a meal. I am not perfect. No one is perfect. So I want to encourage you that even if it's something you've been working on for a while and you feel like, man, I still overeat, happens to everybody. Now, let's talk about, for those of you out there who have been losing weight. You've been on the weight loss journey, you've been doing intermittent fasting, it's been working, and then all of a sudden it ain't working anymore. You're starting to gain and you're kind of panicking. And this is a common thing. I get asked about it all the time, so you're not alone. And I've experienced it where it's like, okay, I'm going along. And, I would always think to myself, what happened? Like I'm doing the same stuff I was always doing. So what happened? That's a great question because what I've found is something has always changed. something's up, and it's your job to figure out what that something is. Learn how to observe your own life, kind of try to step outside of yourself and look at your own actions, observe yourself when you're eating too. And here's what I found. Just, this is over several years of intermittent fasting. Whenever I have started to gain, there has always been a reason behind it, always a traceable event that I can say, okay, here's what happened. Usually, and this would be like, I would say 9 times out of 10, it is stress related. Something changed. I'm either stressed about money or something went wrong, or there's always something that I'm stressed about. And stress leads me to stress eat. Now, look, even though a lot of times I was doing OMAD, right? So just one meal a day, but you can still stress eat that one meal. I'm here to tell you, like, you can even gain weight on OMAD. I have found it's very difficult to do, but you can do it. The temptation, I think, anytime you're gaining is to try to say, well, what I was doing isn't working anymore. So now I've got to make everything really difficult on myself. I need to go keto, or I need to cut out all desserts, or I got to do this, or I got to do that. But really, what I have found is it's never about the foods that I'm eating. It's always about the emotional side of what's going on in my life. Sometimes it can just even be something like, the schedule's off, like some sort of interruption happened in life and now things are a bit wonky. And so then there are more off days than normal, like you're taking the day off a little bit more often than you think you are. But again, just noticing that and realizing there's always a cause. There's always something you can trace it back to. And then once you know what's causing it, then you can take action on it. Another little thing that I did learn and learn the hard way actually was about medications. So I don't generally take medicine often, but I have really bad seasonal allergies. One thing that I noticed was antihistamines make me really hungry. And so that was causing my weight to rise during, seasonal allergy time. My weight started to tick up. And at first I thought it was just water weight. I thought it's just, I'm all stuffy and everything. So it's just water weight. But I started to see that when I was taking like Zyrtec and Benadryl and things like that, my hunger levels were like through the roof at my meals. So I had to be really careful and say, okay, I need to be even more aware when I'm sitting down, that when I sit down, I'm really present with the meal and I take my time. A funny thing about antihistamines, I found out that doctors will even prescribe them to people who need to gain weight because they increase appetite so well that it helps people who are underweight to gain weight. So just know that there's, there are reasons out there that you are, maybe feeling more hungry or are gaining weight. And then, okay, let's talk about if you are maintaining right now and you start to regain. And again, this goes back to there is always a reason. And I would say maintenance especially is a challenging thing because it's not as exciting as weight loss. But what has been helpful to me is to always be very honest with yourself. It can be tempting to be like, oh, I'm doing the same thing I always was doing. And for whatever reason, it's like this crazy thing. I don't know why I'm gaining. But what I found is if you're honest, when you sit yourself down and you compare, what were you doing when you were losing weight versus how does your life look right now? Like, look at your activity level when you were losing versus what does it look like right now? Or what did your eating pattern look like when you were losing? And what does it look like right now? Usually there's some difference. And a lot of times it can be just so small that it seems like, oh, that's really insignificant. I don't think that would do it. But it's these little things. And that's kind of the good and the bad part, I think, of the weight loss journey. Tiny little changes can help you lose the weight. And tiny little changes, though, can also help you gain weight. So again, focus on your actions, anything that's changed, and then take actions to get back to where you want to be. What it really comes down to for me is to notice if I'm ever slipping back into old habits. And, there are several little red flags that I look for. The big one for me is if I start to notice that I'm eating really fast at my meals, like if I just sit down and I just start scarfing food, I have to realize like, okay, there's something going on. I need to slow down and figure out what's going on. And that's what it really comes down to, is figuring out the why. There's always a why. And if you can focus on why is this happening, then you'll be able to get to the root cause. If you can go, say, 5 to 7 layers deep, you're really going to get to those root issues. And that's where the magic happens. I mean, it's one thing to say, like you sit down and you realize like, wow, I ate really fast and I ate too much because I was eating too fast. But if you go a step further and say, well, why was I eating fast? Well, then you might find, the reason I'm eating fast is right now I'm stressed about money. And then you can ask yourself, well, why am I stressed about money? And then it might be, well, I spent too much last month. Well, why did you spend too much last month? Well, I was feeling bad about this or that. Well, why were you feeling bad about that? And that sometimes can take you to places you just didn't even think about. And it can give you some real clarity. So always asking yourself why, I think, is helpful, because a lot of times you can go back a long, long way. Really any why question, there's a because, and then you can say, but why did that happen? And there's another because. So it can be kind of an infinite loop if you let it. It can also help you to refocus if you were starting to kind of, if you're gaining and you're feeling discouraged, it can help you to get that motivation if you say, but look, why am I trying to lose weight in the first place? Like, why is this important to me? And also, especially when you're maintaining, why do I want to keep the weight off? What was it about when I was overweight that was causing me pain? What were the reasons why I wanted to put forth all this effort to get the weight off? And you'll find those reasons, and that can help keep you going. It can motivate you to stick with it and to figure it out, even if it means that you're gonna have to go to uncomfortable places with yourself. And in my experience, once you find those answers, it really helps you to be able to continue on, either with the weight loss journey if you're still trying to lose, or to continue to keep it off if you're going through a period of time where you're just gaining during maintenance. So I hope this episode has helped you. Weight gain, even when you're intermittent fasting, is possible. It's a very common thing that happens. And I hope that by sharing, my experiences with it, that it will help you on your weight loss journey. Okay, thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode. This episode is brought to you by my latest book, Overcoming Weight Loss Obstacles: How to Keep Going When Things Get Difficult. Frustrating obstacles appear in every weight loss journey. Plateaus, overeating, slow weight loss, emotional eating, and weight gain are a few of the common roadblocks that we all face on the weight loss journey. The good news is, all these obstacles can be overcome. Each chapter in this book will mentally prepare you for the challenges you are likely to face and will give you tips on how to overcome each one. The link is in the show notes.